Warning! Fact check us. We're not perfect. Don't listen if you don't like what we say. Some of what we say is opinion, fact, and/or expertise and experience. It can always be challenged. Do your own research before following ours or anyone else's advice. You're the only one responsible for the actions you take. Guidance, advice, direction, and information work differently for everyone based on a wide range of factors. Results will vary, but own your choices. Trigger warning. We say stuff you might not agree with, we might offend you, or say something that goes against your belief systems, or question your personal reality. You've been warned. Go away now if you're easily triggered. Cuss warning. This episode contains 18 beeps. Warning, warning. It sucks that we now have to put warnings on everything. What would happen to the human race if we just let lack of common sense prevail and removed all the warning labels?
3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Eric and Dr. Mears, we are back, and we are here to relate to you folks. Today, there's no lessons that we have a script to teach. We're not here to badger you. Well, we're going to badger you. We're not here. Well, yeah, we're here to badger you. We're going to talk about some small business experiences we had early in our career today, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about goal setting, and we'll be right back. All right, folks, so that was What by Rob Zombie, and I'll tell you why I chose that one today, because if you go and you read the lyrics, you listen to it, they're all over the place. I'm sure Rob Zombie had a vision in mind and knows what everything means, but I chose that song because it really made sense of the early parts of, at least I think, my entrepreneurial journey, because it was all over the place and didn't make sense along the way. What are your thoughts, Dr. Mears, about that journey?
Oh my God, I am a squirrel, right? That's what I call myself. I am super squirrel, but I, like 32% of other entrepreneurs out there, have ADHD, get distracted by bright and shiny things, especially if they're glittery. So yeah, I love that Rob Zombie song. I relate.
Yeah,
I identify with it. Yes.
So, yeah, let's talk about some of our early parts of the career. I know I sort of lead off every podcast, but I'm going to lead you off. You're going to lead us into the stories this time.
Ooh, I like it. Wow. See, only 4 episodes in and you're sharing the baton. See, this is why I really, really love, being your co-host, right? You're good. You're all about that equality, give everybody the chance. And if you don't like it, yeah, you'll knock us over the head with the baton like that gal just recently did in the relay, right? It's an accident as she's smashing her head in. But anyway, okay. So small business stories and stories. Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin. Of course, I was prepped for this episode and I have about 6. So
I'm not giving you time for 6.
No, I'm not going to go into 6. I'm going to go like, oh, okay, where do I start? Where do I start? Like which one, right? So I'll start with the first job I had, business story. So I had a great time. So I was just fresh out of my PhD. I joined this really up and coming cool biotech. They were in this new space that was emerging at that time called bioinformatics, which was a fancy way of saying doing lots of math with genes and trying to figure out how DNA lined up or this or that to try to solve diseases and accelerate drug discovery. I bought in, right? I drank the Kool-Aid, and they were saying, oh, let's connect all these disparate systems that all talk different languages and have one common platform that could feed in, feed out, import, export. And I thought, dang, I want to be part of this. Okay, so now you've got the context. Fresh out of school, right? Know nothing like jack about business at all, right? And they say, Laurelyn, you're going to be our head of the sales and marketing and go out and give demos of the software because you've got the PhD in molecular biology and genetics and data science background. You can help guide the requirements for the computer guys to build it, and you can speak intelligently, so they thought, to the pharmaceutical companies who are going to buy our stuff. So to that end, they said, oh, we'll give you the keys to the kingdom. Here, Laurelyn, here's an office on the 17th floor overlooking Lake Erie. Here's a mahogany desk. Here's a bank account that's unlimited. travel around the world, order $500 bottles of wine, wine and dine our pharmaceutical guests. It's all good. What that was an exercise in how to burn through $65 million of angel investment capital in 3 years. That's what I got out of that experience. And I drank a lot of really freaking good wine. But the problem is that it's a really shitty business story, in that the leader of the company got called out by pharmaceutical companies in Switzerland when we were there, because he was yelling and aggressive and stressed out that stuff wasn't working. The demo was broken, this, that, all the stuff. We used to have $2,000 phone bills on the modem from Europe because we were trying to get the equipment set up and get things, pre-internet and all that sort of good stuff. And I just learned so many things about what not to do. It was, and then just to really bring it home and hit it, with a period at the end of it, the company was basically up for scrap metal, scrap parts. And this is the really, really sad ending to what could have been something great, because the people were amazing and we were this and that and gelling. And it was like all that startup culture, and that was all just really starting to be a thing. Right? Silicon Valley, all this sort of good stuff. And they were doing the deal to sell it off for parts in the World Trade Center on 9/11.
Oh,
and so need I say more, right? How that ended.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would you take away from like their business model? Clearly, seriously flawed. Was it that 80s, glitz and glamour Coke and hooker model they were on, like just let's wow them with pretty things? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so there were a lot of things out of that. So one of the things was, you cannot fake it until you make it. I mean, people tell you that, but when you're trying to sell something like a drug discovery tool to scientists who have to keep people alive, right? That's the whole point of what they're trying to do. They're not trying to kill people and, it doesn't matter. We have no responsibility for any of this. You can't fake that stuff. That's one of the big lessons. The second lesson was in and around spending, just because it's like you're bougie rich, right? Like, yeah, I won a lawsuit, I did this, I did that, I got divorced, I got the paycheck. You can't just blow through it. You really need to be smart about how you spend your money. And that lesson was reinforced many, many, many years later, where I worked with a startup vendor and helped them get some traction. But he was brilliant. His motto was live like a cockroach. They bought used furniture from the nasty thrift stores, and that's what they used. They spent that on equipment, like they needed computers, but they didn't spend where they didn't have to. And so that was the second lesson there that I was like, wow. And then the third lesson was, you really need to be dialed in to what your audience wants. And you have this vision, and this is the thing, these entrepreneurs, and I've been guilty of it too. You have a vision of where you think things are going to go. But if the market isn't giving you the buying signs, you need to pull back. And even me, as recently as 5 years ago, I didn't follow that, even though I learned it 20 years ago.
Yeah, let's just be upfront here. No matter how, I don't care where you are in the food chain of success, whatever that may be, if you're looking at it from being the head of $1 billion company, or you can take a vacation every year with your family. Every entrepreneur screws up all the time, period. Yeah. It's not about, and you hear this cliche statement, fail up, right? Or fall down. It's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up. There's all these cliche statements. Cliches are for real. They're there for a reason, right? But the bottom line is, you will always, forever make mistakes, period. You know what I mean? And I think it goes to that cliche, what did you learn from your mistakes? And that's really it. I mean, and the thing is I think we all can learn from these crappy stories of other businesses, or our own business experiences, or our own business mistakes, which leads me into rainbow shitting unicorns. So
for the audience, for the visual effect that can't see us, I am holding back like deep snickers and trying not to snort, because snorting it's never a good look. It's like a fugly cry. No, it doesn't work. It's not
right.
effective.
Yeah, listen, I hate laughing because I have my jaw goes crooked when I laugh. So
this is mine. Maybe you see we're kindred spirits here. Yeah.
So just going way back, I was doing sort of my first round as a graphic designer and brander, and I was freelancing at the time. I wouldn't have called myself an entrepreneur. And there was this guy, he was opening a pizzeria. This was in North Jersey. He hired me to brand his pizzeria. And what he really wanted was a logo. And I was early enough in the stage of my branding education that I was still, wet behind the ears with what a brand was. So, we're talking 30 years ago at this point. Let's just say 30. Let's not say more.
30. Yeah. We don't want to bash ourselves and feel bad.
Right.
Yeah, no.
So, so I thought I could take the job, and he hands me this drawing on a piece of paper in crayon of a unicorn. And it looks like it's shitting a rainbow. And God bless him. I give him credit. He's like, this is what my daughter drew for the logo for the pizzeria. I want this as my logo. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, are you sure? Because what does this like really have to do with pizza? And he's like, this business is for my daughter and blah, blah, blah. And I guess his daughter at the time was like 4 years old or whatever. And because it definitely looked like a 3 or 4 year old drawing. And so I went ahead and I started working it out, drawing it, fixing it up to make it a pretty rainbow shitting unicorn. And I checked with him every time. Is this what you want? And I always got a yes, but I never got an actual analysis. He never looked at it. I even asked him, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay. Long story short, this is going back and forth, because there's new construction. You know how long that takes, right? So there's a lot of going back and forth, a lot of delays in getting things done. But now we're finally near the opening of this thing. Here comes the deliveries, like 6,000 menus, like 1,000 pizza boxes. And I get there for the delivery, and he's pissed. And he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, what the fuck does rainbow shitting unicorns have to do with the pizzeria? I swear to you, on my kids. And I'm just like, and you can't see my face, but I'm slack-jawed. Literally, like, I might as well just been drooling like Homer Simpson at that point over a donut. I was just like, huh? I'm like, and he doesn't want to pay me the rest of the money.
No, of course not. No,
of course not, because apparently it was my fault. But, that was the moment, thankfully, early in my career, I decided I am not doing this for a small business ever. And it's not that I have a problem with small businesses. It's that I realized that, and again, thankfully, I learned this early in my career, was that if somebody's not ready to listen to the experts or the professional that they hire, then they are not worth having as a client, because it foreshadows all the problems you'll have along the way, no matter what it is. It could be design, it could be branding, it could be consulting, accounting. If the person and again, no disrespect to a pizza maker, but if that's what you do, if you run a pizzeria, you're a pizza restaurateur running that business, and that's what don't hire the person to do branding or do the accounting and then tell them how to do their job. So it was that point I learned that if they're not ready to let go of some control and trust, they're not ready. And there's nothing wrong with that, because every entrepreneur needs to control their brand from the jump. You know what I mean? They need to have that to build that business or that brand. But that was my learning lesson. And, at that point I stopped. I would not take a small business and do that again. I would actually do free work for a small business at that point. I went around and got the regular business, but if I wanted to help a small business, I'll be, yeah, no problem. I'll draw your logo, or I'll make your menu here. Don't worry about paying me, just because I didn't want the headache.
Yeah. It speaks to that whole thing about stay in your lane. It is just so important. And the example that you were just sharing there about, it's the guy that he knows this or he knows that. There's one of the folks that I deal with, brilliant IT, AI, all of this sort of stuff, telling me how to do marketing. It's like, dude, with all respect, you, AI, me, marketing, right? Like, let's just break it down to really, really simple lanes. It's not that you don't want feedback and input to be better, and it's good to be challenged and in the right way where it's productive, right? You're trying to lead to better outcomes. You're trying to lead to greater clarity on a message or this or that, or, what the brand, the colors, everything, what it's symbolizing, all that sort of stuff. Those conversations are good. But at the end of the day, you've got to respect the process And you've got to respect the person behind it that has the expertise. Like my social media gal, Jenna, she's amazing. She's like, stay out of your Instagram because she knows how to make it look pretty. And then I'll slap some freaking reel or something on there. She's like, no, you interrupted the brand and the look. I'm like, oh.
I'm really glad you said that about the brand and the look. This is really something and again, I always go back to, I keep coming back to Procurementcon, not because I'm trying to plug it, because this is actually, despite all my modeling of it and everything, we're still building the bike while we're riding it, which is a lot of businesses, right?
Yeah, most, yeah.
And, you know, that's the one thing about our brand is we don't want it so shiny and polished. So like a couple people have said, oh, you got to fix that. And I'm like, no, I don't. You don't understand the brand. You don't understand why it's a little grungy, why it's a little dirty, why it's a little crooked. You got to understand what that is. And it goes back to, you know, people they have opinions.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Endless.
And they're not in their lane. And I think that's really important too, as we dive into some of maybe these other stories that we have here today. And again, I probably don't have as interesting stories as you, considering, you know, you've probably worked for and with a lot more people than I have.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's, I want to turn real quick before we jump into stories, because as we're sitting here, we were talking about goals before we started the show. And, you know, that was one of the questions I never asked the pizzeria guy, like, what's your goal? Like, I guess because I was too young and to understand like that, you had to ask that question. But yeah, let's talk about that. What is your goal for you, for Steer Us, you know, with everything you're doing, with our podcast we're doing here today, your podcast? Let's talk about that, because I think people have to understand that there's a goal here. We're not just doing this because, as much as we want the world to change or the people to change, we're not doing this because we got spare time. I got shit to do on a Friday if I'm not doing this.
Totally key question to be able to ask, right? And it's all setting yourself up. What are you aiming for? Because you've got to be aiming for something. And most of us, I will speak for, we're not trust fund babies, right? I'm not a trust fund baby. I have had to work my ass off for every cent I've made. Right? Like most people, that is the story. That is the way that it goes. I don't have time to waste and to shoot the shit and have the luxury of doing all of that. For me, it's really, really clear. When you gave me the opportunity to co-host with you, I thought, yeah, I want to do this. Why do I want to do this? 2 reasons, 2 goals. 1, I want to be able to reach an audience who sees the potential of what I do and what I know, so I can help other small business owners with their revenue growth strategies. That's what I do. That's how I get paid, because I'm not a trust fund baby. I have bills and I need to pay them. The second goal I have is I want to share in what I've learned, because I am old. I have had lots of failures. I have had lots of experiences. I want to share them, but I want to share them in a way that's fun and entertaining, so I'm enjoying the process. So it's not an excruciating brain pick or something that I'm so caught up in the minutia of everything that happened. Here's the detail. And it's like, I want to be able to, through storytelling, share what happened. Right. Yeah. So hopefully other people don't make my mistakes. That's the goal. Those are my 2 goals. How about you?
Yeah. Make money.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I'm not
Procurementcon show. You got a lot of small business folks there.
I mean, look, my goal, I do have a mission, right? So the way I don't see, as a business owner, what really changed for me at some point was when I stopped chasing the money and just started chasing the end goal, what I wanted to do for the end goal. When I flipped that, and quite frankly, in my first iteration, my first business, I was involved in capital markets, commercial real estate, commercial banking, business banking. And I did a lot of brand development, product development in that space for developers and stuff like that. But at that time, my ego was, you know, it's all me, it's all me, it's all me. That was number 1. That was a mistake. Number 2 was I was chasing the dollar. So when 2007 collapse of the markets kicked in, my first attitude, because it hit the residential markets, was, oh, we're commercial real estate, we're commercial, we're capital, we're untouchable. Within a week, that market collapsed even worse. And so did my business. Then I ended up in a divorce, and then my business partner at that time ended up drinking full time. And so, I took a hiatus, and when I came back, with Black Ink, creative services and brand development, I was chasing something different now. I was chasing the excellence of the product. I was chasing the advancement of my skills. I was chasing something different. And, that's the same thing now. Here we are with Procurementcon. I saw a problem that I didn't like, which we talked about in the last episode briefly. And I said, I need to solve this problem because it's pissing me off, because people are getting screwed. And I'm a small business owner, and I got screwed too. And then there's all this stuff out there I didn't know existed because nobody had the wherewithal to put it out there in such a way that was easy to find. So I found all these holes. So now Procurementcon and this brand, and still Black Ink exists, but Procurementcon, it's mission driven and it's ethical capitalism. That's why we give away a lot of free shit, right? So the goal here is to build the business by building other businesses' success. And I'll earn then. I will earn from that. People will want to be around me. People will want, like you said, people will want to come to our events. People will want to sponsor. People will want to be part of something. People will be willing to. And it's funny because we came out of the 2 years of brand awareness building, which was just flooding the market with the brand and events. Those first, the first 2 years of events, because we got held up due to the pandemic. So we launched after the pandemic. We're spot on right now as far as our goals, growth, scaling. That's number one. The brand is actually scaling us. We're not scaling the business. And number two, the feedback loop is consistent now. We're getting a lot of unsolicited positive feedback. So I know I'm going to make money. I know I'm going to do it. I'm not going to get a sailboat. I'm not going to have, I know I'm not chasing the house on the hill. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to buy real estate and become a mogul. I want the brand to grow. I want to earn. That's how simple it is. That's my goal.
And that's where we are wholly aligned, in that you have to be anchored in what you're doing, right? And so I look at it that you've got to be able to be anchored in your passion so that you make it your purpose. And when you make it your purpose, you will profit. If you focus on profit, you may be forced to make decisions about profit which take you away from your purpose and certainly away from your passion, so that you eventually grow to hate it. So that's a key piece. And like you, I really love helping small business owners and entrepreneurs. I always have, even with my prior podcast, which was ranked in 2023. I was very proud of that. It was a top 5 in entrepreneurship, because it was all about shining the spotlight on everybody else and what they had done, and me learning from them. Every conversation I go into, I try to come away with one nugget, and I try to give one nugget, because that's how we all grow. And I love that. And so with where Steeris is in focusing on small businesses and all the technical and sort of marketing problems that they have related to technology, blacklists, emails not being opened, you've got market research that you need to know what's going on, sales, marketing, automation, all those bits, that can be really hard stuff and really overwhelming. And I've worked with a number of different clients who have been in tears, like literally tears, because it's just so freaking hard. And I want to be able to take that pain away. So I'm really the frustration fixer. And then I'm coming on this show talking about my frustrations and things I've experienced. And that's what entrepreneurship is, right? You figure out what the problem is and you go solve it.
Tell me another story, another crappy business story.
Okay, another crappy business story, because I have lots and lots. We can talk for hours, Eric. Okay, so another crappy business story. I was at a startup, and I've done a lot of startups. And for those of you who don't know me or didn't stalk me on LinkedIn, I've been an executive at 3 Fortune 100s and an executive at, I don't even know how many startups now, more than a dozen for sure. Anyway, launched about 20 some products, launched 4, 5, 6 companies by now.
Damn, I'm in the company of royalty.
I wouldn't say so, because I don't have the sailboat, or the, fancy schmancy clothes being purchased on Rodeo Drive. So I haven't done a lot of things right. I've done a lot of things wrong, but learned from them. Anyway, that's it. Another crappy business story. So when I was saying with the whole tech thing, it's a lot of this bravado, right? Fake it till you make it. You can't, again, especially when there's lives on the line and you're in that space of biotech and research and discovery. And I was working for this startup biotech company, and they were focused in personalized care, personalized medicine. How do you get it so that whatever your genes are, that you can figure out, like, put it in through the algorithm. It's always about the algorithm, which is a freaking black box, and it's such BS. But anyway, having been on both sides of the algorithm, yeah, I'll call it the bullshit. But anyway, the algorithm, right, was designed so that it could read some of your key genes and decide what your treatments and things should be. Well, it wasn't selling. The shareholders that were in it and the angel investors were going, hello, like, we want some payback. We've put in a lot of money. We're not seeing anything. There's zero sales. There's zero pipeline. What's going on? What's going on? And of course, they always look to the person in sales, right? You're the instant scapegoat. It doesn't matter that the product is shite. The product is unsellable. None of that matters. It's you. You're the salesperson. You're failing. So what I did is I teamed up with some folks I knew at one of, well, I won't say the name, but it is the top university in the world. And so I went there. I'm like, you guys are experts in this stuff. Can you look at this? And they said, yeah, Laurelyn, a magic 8-ball would be more accurate. Damn. Right? It was just total shite. And then, of course, I raised the issue. And then Laurelyn was looking for another job.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's pretty shitty.
I think for small business, and I hate buzzwords, but they have a place. Transparency is a valuable word. It's often used as a buzzword now, just like authenticity is and viral. There's all these buzzwords. And like I said, we could do a whole 2-hour episode on buzzwords, definitions, and their value.
Yeah, and everything's iconic.
Iconic, yeah. That's why I don't have iconic tattooed on my arm. It's legendary. So that what's tattooed is indestructible, unstoppable, immortal, legendary, and invincible. There's no iconic there. I think like there's a lot of businesses intentionally. I say there are intentional businesses out there that go out to raise money with a bullshit product, period, or bullshit idea, period. They're out there. They're not there for anything but grabbing that angel investor fund, angel investor money, whatever, bank loan, whatever, and then go bankrupt. That's what they're there for. It's a scam. It's a money grab, right? A lot of people get hurt in that. And then there's a lot of businesses that have this really great ideas that really need to be funded. But what's that? There's that science project, right? I've seen this where they take this strawberry that's full of this white fuzzy mold and they put it on a toothpick next to healthy strawberries. And within like a day, the other strawberries are contaminated, right? And that's what's happening. And, you know, it makes it difficult for small businesses. And I think for a lot of small businesses that have great ideas, whether they're innovative or entrepreneurial or something like that, when they're chasing that venture capital money, you know what I mean? They're chasing that investment money. They do need, unfortunately, to be the ones combating all the assholes before them, right? So they need to have some kind of like really solid product. And it's a sad thing. And now this is going to bring me into the plug for the United States government.
Okay.
All right. There is a lot of money for innovation out there. So if you go into like sbir.gov, that is the
Small Business Innovation and Research.
Yep. And that's generally out through what's called America's Seed Fund, SBIR-STTR. And that's you know, one of the SBA, Small Business Administration things. Currently right now that's not getting cut, so don't stress people. We'll see though, but I doubt it is because innovation and technology falls under the manufacturing mandate. But there's a lot of that money out there. The National Science Foundation has the America's Seed Fund. They do a non-equity funding opportunity. The United States Department of Energy puts a ton of grant money and seed money out there for innovative technologies in the experimental stages, right? So there's tons. The military has their own tech space for innovative technologies, everything, you name it, medical, military, weapons application, safety, it's out there, right? And I think that is too where a lot of these businesses don't access this money with their good idea and they go after this angel money, you know what I mean? And they're put up against because some asshole made a fake product. you know. And this is one of the ways that goes around it. It's more work. I think it's more work to apply for this money, but you don't have to have like this finished product in front of you.
Right. It's also very hard to get. I want to be clear about that. I
Well,
write
no, it's not
SPIRs for some of my clients. And so, yes, the first pitch part is a 5-page, what pitch. They look at it, they review, and they decide, oh, do you pass go? Do you collect 200? What happens? Right.
Yeah.
So that decision's made. And then once you get that go ahead to submit the full grant application, that's about 65 pages.
Yeah.
And it takes months to prepare and do. And your chances of being funded around in the first round are less than 5%. But if you make it into that second round, you actually submit your full application, you've got about a 10 to 15% chance of being funded. Still not great odds, and yes, but you should do it because there is money out there for innovation. But you also have to expect that you're probably not going to win, right? It's a really, really competitive market space. And
it is.
Yeah, and you've got to be prepared for that, and it doesn't happen overnight. So just on the timelines, you submit the pitch, and then within 30 to 45 days, you have 1 year to submit. Then they have 8 months to review. So you
could be years out. Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. I'm not saying that this is, like you said, it's a hard road. Let's just dial this back for 1 minute. Anything related to filing something in the federal government, whether it's a grant fund, it's an RFP,
trademark,
it's no joke. You have to spend the time. Anything. But here's the thing. You said trademark. This is great. So when I trademarked black ink, I will show you this their response. They denied my trademark, despite the fact that I made the fucking thing. It was all original and everything. They didn't just deny it because obviously of the name. They denied it because it looked, and the examples that they sent me looked nothing like this. So I had to respond literally like as if I'm in court, right? I had to respond to the USPTO lawyer with my response rebutting the denial in order to get my approval. And the thing is I knew going in that if I did a small rebuttal, I was going to lose. Right. So I had to give them a rebuttal equal to, if not more robust than their denial, which I had to do. And that took time. So I got the book back. It was, just under a half-inch thick of the denial. And I sent them an inch thick rebuttal. You know what I mean? And so it took work though. This wasn't 5 minutes this wasn't a copyright application.
Right.
You know what I mean? But anything like that, when you respond to an RFP, just look at those DoD RFPs.
Oh, they're monsters.
They're monsters. And literally, when we say cross the T's and dot the I's, I mean cross the T's and dot. If it's a capital I where a lowercase I is supposed to be, that can literally cost you the bid.
That's right. I know a lot about RFPs, actually, having written hundreds myself for former employers, for myself. We at Steeris, we've won a lot of government RFPs, and I help a lot of clients with theirs. DODs are the worst. On average,
NASA's bad too.
Yes. DODs, though, they're usually over 400 pages of the RFP. That's not the response and the space that they give you. And so you've got to digest that first. So that's just balls of fun. And then when you are responding and you find out from the folks in procurement, and you know this, you run Procurementcon, 80% of the bids submitted are tossed out, usually for a technicality. It's missing a page. It didn't have the signature. This wasn't notarized. Oh my God, you used Times New Roman font, but we asked for Calibri. You did font 11. We wanted font 12. Sorry, honey. Right?
It's double line space. We wanted 1.5.
Yeah, right. 1.6. I've seen some and so, that kind of stuff drives me around the bend, but that's the kind of thing where it is very exacting, and you've got to put the time and spend the effort to that attention to detail. And when it falls apart in a big way. Like I said, these companies that I talked about, those two examples, and if you're not ready, or you said in your trademarks or this or that or applications, to really go to town and defend what you did, you're in hardship.
Absolutely. And that leads me to my next shitty business story. And this is about me. This is about black ink. And this is about the first time we bid a NASA contract. And this was a nightmare. I mean, I saw the contract. We fit in the wheelhouse. And again, this was early before I actually knew how to parse a bid. So this was way early, like in the first couple of years of Black Ink. We had no support structure. We didn't know what we were doing. Blind people running around in the dark, literally. That's what we were. And I saw this NASA. So in my brain, it's like the NASA logo flashes through my brain next to the Black Ink logo, and woohoo, you know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking about this. So I'm reading the RFP. And I'm like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Still not realizing that I had no Sam's record yet.
Nothing. That's not overnight.
Yeah, there was no, I had no history in Sam's, not realizing I really needed that. I thought that the referrals that I would have would be good enough. An economic development authority is not NASA. Right? So.
No, and people don't get that. I get clients all the time who call me, Laurelyn, and it's like Wednesday. This RFP's due Friday. Can you do it? I'm like, I get out of here. Look,
you don't even like.
And then I'll say, oh, are you registered in sam.gov? What's that? I'm like,
yeah, what's that?
No.
So I'm doing this RFP. I'm writing, and I'm watching, right? Because everything's being done through SAM. So every time there's an update, I'm getting notified.
Right.
And I go back, and it was a fucking revision.
Ugh.
So now it's a revision. I end up thinking I've got it done. Another revision. This RFP was revised over 18 months.
Oh, yeah. And then they don't decide for another year.
Right. So I put together the response, thinking I've done a good job, thinking I've done everything. The one thing I didn't do was I didn't listen I thought I listened properly on how to stack the RFP, right? Stacking is when you put it in the order they want it, with tabs and everything else. But I had put in all this stuff where I put in diagrams and I put in bar charts and, and they didn't ask for any of that. So I thought I was doing a good thing. So that was that. And then by the time it was all said and done, I submitted, I get the denial. And I'm like, well, how? We know we were probably lowest and best price at this point. We had qualifications. So I asked for the debrief. And I'm thinking I'm going to get one person because I'm used to a debrief over the phone or one person on a call, video call. 6 freaking people from NASA. And I'm just like, that right there, I was a deer in the headlights. I'm like, I don't even know who to look at on the screen, right? Who am I talking to? And it was literally like the tribunal, like every one person had something to say. And it was very short. One lady was actually very professionally unprofessional. Because, when somebody said, well, the RFP wasn't up to the requirements, you didn't fulfill the requirements. And I'm like, how? The next person jumps in and goes, that's not our discussion. You should have read the RFP. And I'm like, but I did. And I sent you everything. And then the next person jumped in and said, yeah, but you didn't, this was just the one issue. There was other issues. And I'm like, what? And then the next person, and the one lady, I never forget, woman, she goes, it didn't qualify. Your RFP sucked.
Oh, geez, Louise.
And I was just like, at that point, because I stopped quick, because that was literally the ground level answer I needed. And at that point, I was just like, holy shit. Now, I'd spent 18 months chasing this RFP.
Mm-hmm.
And my learning lesson was number one, the government is very different from state, and any of that federal Secret Service or DARPA or DOD, anything having it is even worse than if you're doing like, you're going to paint the Veterans Affairs Hall. You know what I mean? It's very different. And so I learned, like, at that point, I learned that I really have to dial back and learn how to read an RFP and know my customer, right? Know that, like, that day I learned about market intelligence. I learned about looking at older RFPs, previous responses, whatever was available out there in the public, and see how everybody else did it. That was the first thing I learned out of that one.
It's RFP writing is an art form, as I say, and I have written hundreds. I'm probably somewhere north of 300 RFPs, mostly at the state level and departmental agency, like state level agency, a lot of federals too, a lot of county, not so many municipalities, but I've been in that space, and now I've got it down to a science, right? Because I've done it a lot. But it's the kind of thing where you can't take it lightheartedly. You've really got to go in. And like you said, oh, you heard no. So the feds are very good about telling you yay, nay. and giving you the debrief when you request it. None of the other levels of government are. You might never even hear back. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Right. Then you write them. Oh, we haven't even made a decision yet. And you're like, oh, come on. Right. So
I've definitely had to throw back some FAR regulation at some federal agencies about giving me my debrief. I've literally had to quote them FAR to get it in some cases, because it's like, I don't know, they're required for the debrief, at least under FAR. FAR, by the way, is Federal Acquisition Regulation, and DFARS is Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation. And they are literally the Bible of procurement and purchasing in the United States government. And by the way, if you are doing procurement, just know this: the smallest violation in FARS could land you in front of a judge.
Bingo. On both sides. And again, just on the topic of like companies that I was employed by that really didn't have the algorithm where it needed to be. You can't fake this stuff.
No.
You can't, and especially when you're submitting it because you're beholden, right? And legal consequences.
Here's the next big thing in AI is AI writing your RFPs, which is going to be a massive failure. It's going to work well for a short period of time for some people who master AI and are involved and not letting it just write the RFP and then submitting it. It's going to work well for some people as a tool. There's people already out there going, why am I losing bids? This was a fantastic RFP. It was all written by AI, numbnuts.
Right. Oh, I'll talk about that because I'm always in tech and in this space, and I go around speaking and lecturing at various colleges, whatever, about grant writing and RFP proposal writing, all this kind of stuff. I get invited by startups to say, hey, check out our software. We're building this. And I always give the critique on, well, okay, this really isn't going to work. Here's why. Not that they want to hear that, or that my opinion is all that in a bag of potato chips, but whatever. I'm asked to do it. I do it and I share. And then I look at also where these SBIRs and all of this, you have to cite how you used AI.
Yeah.
Did you use it to generate an idea? Did you use it to streamline or to summarize something that was too many words or characters? Did you use it to write the whole bloody thing? Plus, all of these tools exist to be able to hunt it down and find that. So don't be thinking that, oh, you can just crank out all these RFP responses either with the aid of an AI tool that's dedicated to that or just using a Gen AI basic support tool. You can't. You will be snuffed out.
Yeah. And there's tons of tools. I mean, for the last couple of years, people have been developing anti-AI AI. Like it's
exactly.
There was I forget what college it was. I always default to Cambridge, even though it's probably not the correct college. It's just the first thing that comes to mind. One of the colleges created AI to thwart AI when AI goes out there and scans photos and scans images. What it does is their AI. So let's say somebody says, I want you AI to give me a picture of a cat sitting on a fence. So AI goes and scours photos and then composites a bunch of stuff. Well, this anti-AI, it turns around and when it gets that message, it shields it so that it doesn't see a cat, it sees a monkey. It's like, it's crazy. Like anti-AI, like what's next, right?
Well, that's just it. It's all complete lunacy. And then bringing it back around here, more poopy stories. So here's another one. This was fresh last year. I was looking to expand my business in Steeris and look to get an investment, and found these business partners, and they said, okay, great, let's go on tour together. And we did the 30 days last January together, spoke to all kinds of industry leaders in adaptive leadership and technology, e-learning, all of this sort of stuff, which is where I started. Like that was original Steeris. Right now I've pivoted. I'm new Steeris, but okay. And we went on tour, and every day it was just grueling. 3, 4, 5 hours of discussions, talking to all these other thought leaders that they brought me to. What do you think? How would you do this, Laurelyn? How would you do this? Then after the 30-day tour, we got into February. I said, okay, here we go. Let's get into negotiations and say what we're going to do and how we'll revamp Steeris and look to do an investment. And they said, no, we're not moving forward with you. We're starting our own company. So not business story, people's story. So that
Yeah.
kind of stuff exists a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people face that, I know throughout my career, there's always the talk. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do the other thing. And don't get me wrong. I'm guilty of the talk too. I feel though, what I believe is I don't make promises. I'll say I'm going to do something and then I do it. But if it takes me a year to figure it out to do it, I'll get to doing it. So say what you mean, do what you say. But that's really hard for people to find. And that's, again, why people have to do due diligence. So if somebody's promising to invest $100,000 in your business, or somebody's promising to market your business in a co-ally partner unpaid earned share, do your homework on those people, right? Find out who they are and if they've ever actually done it and how many people have they done it for, et cetera. I'm not saying that you guys didn't do that. I'm just saying people in general, because people can change their mind at any given time, even if they're the best people on earth. But I think a lot of businesses face a lot of promises and then they bank on those promises, and then those promises don't come through and they're not prepared to make that pivot. At least you pivoted. They're not prepared because, they drank the Kool-Aid, basically, and with that, I think we're going to wrap this one up because we are at the end of this show. And, I guess our next episode we're going to be recording we're just going to shoot from the hip, kind of like what we did here today. In our next episode, we're not really sure where we're going to go, but I think I want to make it ugly.
Okay, we can do. I mean, I still have so much to say. I have way more poopy business stories. There's so many things.
Well, maybe we'll have to make the next episode part 2 of these business stories,
yeah.
Right? So we'll come up with a few more because I'm sure I could get. I'm sure I've got some really bad ones. I kept it light this time, just because I don't want the algorithm to have to bleep me out every third word.
Right. We're trying to be good about that. And we're learning from our audience as we're going along here. Folks, it's good. We want that feedback. We want that input. You want us to do more of this, less of this. And we're going to listen to it, but not do all of it because it's our show.
Right. And so here is the first of gratuitous plugs on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Dr. Mears at
steerus.io.
So that's STEERUS.io. So contact Dr. Mears for amazing business advice, and she will steer you in the right direction. Do not contact her if you're not going to stay your lane and try to tell her what her job is.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that plug. Yes, I am a frustration fixer. Small businesses, you got problems? I'll help you solve them. No, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to solve the freaking problem.
And if you're interested in brand development and creative strategies, you can contact Black Ink Creative Partners at our website, blackinkcreativepartners.com. But please do not contact us unless you are thinking like you want to be the next Starbucks, the next Pepsi. We need people who are ready to elevate. Not that you folks who can't elevate or are not ready to elevate. We need you to be in the right place. Have your sustainable business, because if you're going to grow, your business is going to end up scaling you. For the rest of you small businesses who don't need our services, we want you to join us, our small business community, the Deets, which you can head over to procurementcon.com and you could sign up. It's a free, no-cost membership. Okay, let me dial that back. It's not technically free. We do ask you to do some very simple tasks. One is click the resource links, click the webinars, click the videos, support the people that are giving you free resources, because that's what we're delivering you is their resources, and elevate your business. Because if we don't see you clicking links, thank you, technology, we're going to put you on the back burner and we're going to forget about you for a while. And we're going to focus on the people that want to elevate their business. So check us out there, and wherever you find us on whatever, if we're already in syndication by the time this episode's up, which I doubt it, but if we are, follow us, bookmark us, whatever the latest trend of clicking a button and staying informed is, please do that. Dr. Mears, thank you so much once again. It's a pleasure I think you and I are going to have a good long road ahead of us with this, and we'll be happy to keep, our whole 2 listeners engaged.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. You have a good one. Talk to you soon.
Let's go!